Thank goodness for the camera. In the old days, if you saw something amazing, you had to tell people about it and hope they believed you. Now, you can just pull out your phone and record it. Because of the camera, we can show you all kinds of unbelievable things. If these moments weren't filmed, no one would believe they happened. Number 1. Catfish versus fox. Now, as we all know, foxes are very dashing and great problem solvers. As demonstrated in this video, the fox saw some dinner floating around in the water and went in for it, trying to reel him in with a nearby rope. What the fox underestimated, though, was how huge the catfish really is. This big old cat was fished out of the biggest river in Lithuania, coming in at 52 kilograms and 2.04 meters long. The catfish really isn't having it with the fox. Once the fox catches a glimpse at the immense size of the fish, it knows that it should be treading very, very lightly. And tread lightly it does as it peeks its head into the water to see if it can find a way around the fish's enormous mouth and not get swallowed whole. The fox doesn't get the fish in the end, but its cunning tactics to try and get that fish out of the water are nonetheless remarkable. In the words of the ancient general, Sun Tzu, strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Number 2. Rattlesnake in the surf. There's so many animals on our list being found in such odd places, and here we have a timber rattlesnake just moseying its way into the oncoming waves. You know, super chill, as if it's not one of the weirdest things ever. While out for a very calm and very snake-free stroll along the Carolina coast, Sam Corliss saw what he thought was a piece of seaweed being pulled out into the surf. But upon closer inspection, what he actually saw was a snake coming right at him. The snake at some point does divert its direction and begin to head back into the ocean. This is a fine reason for Sam to be freaked out. For anyone to be freaked out, snakes can sometimes grow to as large as 6 feet. While timber snakes used to be quite common in the area that Sam was in, the destruction of its natural habitat forced it into limited pockets, like bogs and the remaining forests. This snake, in particular, didn't really pose a threat in the end. It just wanted to do its best Baywatch impression. So just let it do its thing and be as stunning as Pamela Anderson. Number 3. Super horse attacks alligator. Coming at number bonkers is a horse coming in hot by trampling an alligator that was just trying to mind its own business. I'm not really sure that anyone could even try to imagine a more weird predatory matchup than a horse taking on a lone alligator. And who comes out on top? Well, it will really surprise you. Starting off innocently enough, a group of bystanders at Paynes Prairie State Park in Florida saw a pack of horses approach a lonely alligator, then smelled a ripe video opportunity in the process. One of the horses from the pack begins to slowly approach the alligator, and there was a part of me that kinda began to hope that they would just hug and become best friends, and perhaps go on a picnic or something. Alas, it's not what happened. Seemingly out of nowhere, the horse begins to trample the crap out of the alligator like he owes him money or something, or caught him breaking into a stall. The horse and the alligator quickly spate and go their own ways. Now there's no doubt that the horse was being a jerk on this one. The attack came off as unprovoked, and on the horse's part, much too violent for what was actually happening. Even all the bystanders began saying that the horse overreacted. Maybe the horse and the alligator really do have a history together, like they know each other personally. You never know. Maybe that horse's name is Steve. Number 5. Salmon swim across flooded street. Why did the salmon cross the road? To party? No, I'm kidding. But they did, however, cross the road to try and do what all salmon do when they saw last place that I would have expected to see a fish trying to cross the road. Really, though. On Highway 101 in Shelton, Washington during a sunny and calm afternoon, Alexis Leonard and her father were making their way back from a trout hatchery. Leonard, being a specialist working at the hatchery, knew immediately that these fish were making their way to lay some eggs. Understanding that this is a strange and bizarre occurrence, Alexis decided to record the incident and send it to her sister. Her sister, in turn, saw internet gold. And that's when she went ahead and uploaded it, so that the rest of us here on the web could take a gander. Seems to me that these fish are working their butts off to get to the other side of the road. Alexis explained that the ones who couldn't make it across the street could be stranded on that side of the road forever. Number 6. Amazing flights with birds. Have you ever wanted to fly around like a bird? How about one better? What about flying around like a bird with birds? This is what the birdman Christian Moloch has done for the last 20 years of his life. And when you watch him fly, you see that he's got it down to a science. It should be a nice pick-me-up after the last video for sure. Being his lifelong dream, Christian began really pursuing the idea seriously in 1995 by building an extremely lightweight flying machine that wouldn't scare birds away. For a long while, his attempts were unsuccessful to fly with the birds. He then began to raise a flock of his own, nurturing them until they were ready to go off and be independent, and finally had achieved his dream. Now, Christian is able to fly with all types of birds and over many different kinds of absolutely stunning landscapes in Europe. He does document it all with a camera, and even his wife has been known to come along with him on trips. Christian has said that he still cries with happiness every single time he goes on a flight. And really, how could you blame him? Crazy winds turn chairlift into a swinging horror. In most cases, riding up the chairlift in excitement and anticipation is one of the finer pleasures of skiing in the mountains. Except in this particular case, when a huge blizzard rolls in and you're stuck 40 feet in the air, and the lift begins swinging like crazy. How they held on for so long is really beyond me, or even kept from throwing up. This particular ski spot is in Austria's mountains, and skiers were just minding their own business when seemingly out of nowhere, a strong and heavy storm would roll through, trapping this particular couple on the lift. When the first video of the incident would be posted, it was unsure if people were actually in the lift or not. From this angle, though, we see that there are indeed 2 pairs of skis popping out of the bottom. There also appear to be some kind of worker from the mountain trying to climb up on the chairlift poles, searching for some kind of solution. That's very kind of them. But how can you really stop that huge thing from flailing around like that? Reports from afterwards say that the couple in the lift got off with a few bumps and bruises. So, they should consider themselves lucky because it looked like a wild ride. Number 8. Kind dog saving fish. Gosh darn it. Will someone help the poor little paparoo save the fish? Bless his little dog heart. He's trying as hard as he can. But it isn't going to happen, buddy. Kudos for trying though, and we all love you just that much more. I wish humans would be so adorably helpful, though we can't say it isn't for lack of trying. That being said, we could take a hint from this dog. From the get-go, you can see the heartbreak on the poor pooch's face as it uses its snoot to try and put more water on the clearly very dead fish in front of it. It's all for nothing though. The place this happens appears to be a fish market somewhere in Thailand. All of those sad little flicks of water, it just kinda makes you wonder. How exactly does the dog understand that the fish needs the water to live in the first place? In any case, I think there's enough hatred and violence in the world. Seeing and believing that this dog is doing something so on the internet. Spread hope and happiness. And I, for one, salute this hopeful doggo and whomever filmed it. Number 9. Whale plays fetch with rugby ball. More balls and animals and humans just getting along with each other. Except this time though, the animals are the super smart beluga whale. You thought that playing fetch with Scruffles the pup in the park was a blast. Well, just try being on a boat in the middle of the Arctic. And Scruffles isn't a dog, it's a beluga whale. Only in your dreams, filmed in the Arctic Circle, a group of South African seamen would come across the beluga whale and somehow had the bright idea to try and play fetch with it. Armed with only a 2019 Rugby World Cup ball, they threw it into the freezing waters, only to have it be brought back by the whale. Reactions like this from whales are actually very common. Whales and dolphins do tend to be very playful and responsive to humans. And while beluga whales are much more common in the North Pole, they can sometimes migrate south because of the shifts in temperature due to climate change. The video would be posted by a man named Alan Cohen onto Facebook, though it's unsure if he is indeed the man in the video throwing the ball to the whale. If it were me, I think the whale and I would be best friends forever. For sure. Much better friends than me and Steve. Number 10. French Bulldog versus Bears. French Bulldogs are definitely not necessarily known as being very vicious, but this one in particular, well, it's got some big old cojones. Even in the face of 2 wild bears, the dog took them head on and actually managed to scare them off. What starts off as 2 cub bears wandering onto a California man's property kind of starts to pick up when the dog notices them. Almost without hesitation, the little rascal sprints after them, really truly frightening them in the process, despite the fact that they're at least 3 times the size. Why exactly were those bears there in the first place? Well, according to the owner, many of his neighbors were feeding the wildlife, which included the bears, making them feel more comfortable to approach the house. Could they have posed a threat to the owner? Well, maybe. Had the owner been caught off guard, or maybe if he didn't have the balls of steel that his little pupper had. This goes to show you, everyone, just be strong and have conviction with the things that you go for in your life. Confidence is the key. Number 11. Birds playing basketball. Say what? Birds playing basketball? These little bird brains are dunking on each other in a heated b-ball game for some onlookers. Well, like I said, it's things like this that really make me love the internet. Because if something like little birds playing basketball is getting boring for you, then you, my friend, need to reevaluate your entire life. They just go back and forth throughout the video, trying to get that little ball through the tiny hoop. While it seems as though their primary motivation for getting the ball through the hoop is food, how can you really blame them? If that's all I had to do to get a little squirt of food from a tube, well, you can bet your butt I'd dunk all over my friends. I'm 6'4". I tower over most people. Even you, Steve. I'm only joking. Well, kind of. While Steve is a total jerk and a certified bird brain, parrots like these are actually quite smart for their size. They're even capable of correctly identifying certain colors. In the case of this video, I'm not really sure how training a bird like this is actually done, but judging from the results, it's totally worth it. Number 12. Brazil dam collapses on January 25th, 2019. This video is definitely difficult to watch, but will absolutely remind you of how precious that life is and how quickly it can disappear. Though it is hard, it's still amazing and very much an homage to the people who passed away during this huge event. On 25th January of 2019, a site dedicated to the mining of iron ore in the area would be flooded with toxic waste and sludge after a dam inside the mine burst open. This soon covered the entire area with liquid, trapping roughly 234, immediately killing 110 people. The search for survivors would go on for days afterwards, but came up with little to no results. 1 week after, a vigil would then be held for all of those who were lost in the tragedy. The incredible video itself shows the amazing footage of the mine completely imploding and rushing over the surrounding area like a tsunami of mud and waste. Many of the people who were working in the mines were young people from the villages. Nobody knows for sure, but the cause for such a horrible event is thought to have been liquefaction, which is essentially the liquidation of soil due to enormous stress. May all of those who were lost in this video rest in peace. Number 13. The beach ball goal. The overwhelming feeling of shame that Mr. Callum Campbell must have felt after inadvertently helping the opposing team score a goal is beyond my comprehension right now. However, in his defense, how is he really supposed to know that by some miracle, the ball would bounce into the goal? Saturday, October 17, 2009, a football match between Liverpool and Sunderland was off to a pretty normal beginning with a score at 0-0 for most of the game. Partway through, Callum made the fateful decision to bounce the beach ball he had in his hand onto the pitch. Now, normally, the referee should have been stopping the match to clear the field, but he didn't. The ball stayed there, just in from the goalkeeper. When Sunderland player Darren Bent would take his shot at Liverpool goalkeeper Pepe Reina, the ball bounced off the beach ball and directly into the goal. The crowd, mortified, called for a reversal, but it was too late. Sunderland then went on to win the game because of the goal, 1-0. Talk about a lifetime of regret. Number 14, Secret Jenga Star. Now, she's not only a very, very good girl, but this border collie named is actually an amazing Jenga player. Along with her owner, Mary, they both post videos of themselves doing different tasks together, such as yoga amongst other things. It's really adorable. And she's really talented. Using her mouth to pull the pieces out of the building, Secret then proceeds very slowly and very concentrated and nails the first one. Mary goes quite easily as well, and then on to the second one, and so on. The pile begins to shift. I'm sure it's gonna come tumbling down, but alas, it stays standing. For the third attempt, I was completely convinced the whole set would just topple, but she actually did it. The pile shook a little bit, but held fast in the end. I'm fairly certain that dogs are smart animals, but this level of ingenuity is pretty mind-blowing. I know that if I had to play that dog, I would lose on the first freaking move, and I've got fingers. Training the dog is everything in the end, and this is a really wonderful reflection of Mary as a dog owner and a person as well. So congratulations, Mary. You are Dog Owner of the Year.